Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about enterprise security, some of the challenges involved, and some of the emerging technologies that are reshaping enterprise cybersecurity. To discuss that, I'm joined by Amol Kulkarni, Chief Product and Engineering Officer at CrowdStrike. Amol, very good to have you with us today.
Great to be here, James. Glad to be talking with you.
And Amol, how is your week going this week? Is this a busy week, a regular week? Are you just happy to be on Friday? What's your sense today?
Yeah, it's always great to be on Friday. The day is nice. We have sun out here in Seattle, so that's always fun and always glorious to have that privilege, honestly, because we don't get as many sunny days. But yeah, looking forward to more of that as summer comes in. But yeah, we are always busy with CrowdStrike. It's we never slow down. So Friday is just another day.
Right, I'm sure. All right, let's talk about enterprise security. I mean, there's so much going on in the enterprise security market these days.
Yeah.
What customer concerns stand out the most to you? What specific security technology or trend is getting the buzz at the moment? Obviously, XDR is very hot. A lot of headlines about XDR. Zero trust is sort of the term du jour. I mean, what are the actual customers talking about these days?
Yeah, I think if we step out a little bit from the individual products or the areas, I think the biggest challenge with enterprise security is just the complexity that security teams and IT teams have to face day in and day out. I mean, if you look at Patch Tuesday from Microsoft, that has become almost like a 0-day Tuesday nowadays, because there are so many critical patches being released every single month, and honestly, no one can keep up with it. Like no team, unless you are very well staffed, which we know that there is so much of a skill shortage. It's very hard to keep up with what vulnerabilities are out there, what patches do I need to install, how do I mitigate against those. So that attack surface is just growing every single day. And it's not reducing, and the teams are scrambling to see like how they can address that attack surface. And I think the second part there, I'd say, is in enterprise, unlike consumer, nothing gets obsolete, right? And you know that very well. Like new technology comes in, that gets adopted, but all the existing technologies stay, and so that complexity of the stack keeps on increasing every year, every day, right? I mean, we have customers who have mainframes, and they are also on the cutting edge using containers and serverless, right? So that's the expanse that they have to deal with, and then they have to figure out how to secure, how to get a proper visibility into what is even happening in their enterprise. So I would say like that's top of the mind. Like that's probably the biggest concern at a high level from enterprise cybersecurity.
Complexity. Yeah, I think you really said it. It is amazing. The mainframe sector still makes money. People are still buying mainframes. We don't hear much about them, but actually mainframes are still valuable. And of course, container technology is cutting edge, but there are companies out there, it's amazing to think, that are cobbling together an overall infrastructure that has mainframes and containers and is cloud native. And so I can just imagine the complexity. Yeah. And of course, there's all the endpoints that have to be secure. There's employee security. I guess in the face of all that, is there advice that you would give to companies to deal with all that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing we say upfront really is multiple things. One is that you can only secure what you can see. And so if you do not have visibility into, first off, what is your footprint within the enterprise? I mean, there's so much of DevOps happening where teams are going off and deploying things, and shadow IT, that even just having an understanding of your overall footprint is a big challenge. So first and foremost, like doing everything you can to get a comprehensive visibility of your footprint. And then once you have that, then making sure that you have visibility into the activity that's happening. That's where, to me, EDR comes in. That's where endpoint detection and response is key, because it starts with comprehensive visibility.
Can I ask you a
We look
question
at,
about that? Sorry to
yeah,
interrupt.
absolutely.
When
No,
you say visibility, do you mean like the term we often use is observability, or are they different ideas necessarily?
no, absolutely. It's absolutely the same.
Okay.
Observability is now being used in a variety of different areas, but from a security observability perspective, EDR is security observability. That's what we started with, and we basically created, in some sense, the category of EDR, because the premise was, if you do not have visibility, then you cannot detect what is anomalous, and if you cannot detect, then you cannot prevent even further. So we look at that as a funnel, starting with visibility, then detection, then prevention, and
Mm.
and and the other part, which is also critical there, is layering the human expertise insight very sort of in a very fundamental way within the platform, so that that visibility part has to be exposed to the end user so they can hunt for the unknown, for the attacks that are not being detected by the software. And that's a crucial sort of philosophy that we have had all along when we built EDR.
Is part of that being able to predict the attacks? Is it like predictive security? Is that a reality today?
It is. So we have what we base our platform on are, and from a security point of view, are on two main approaches. One is machine learning, which by definition is predictive, right? So it's not evaluating every single thing and looking to see whether this is malicious or not. It's trained based on data sets that are available, and then any new data sets that come in, if they fall into the malicious or benign categories, they are classified by machine learning. So from machine learning perspective, that's predictive by nature. We have cases where we typically rev our machine learning models every quarter or every month or so, like at that pace. And all along, we find new attacks that come in, which are detected by older machine learning models, right? Because of the predictive nature. So that's one part. And the second part which we use is our behavioral models. So we are looking for, let's take ransomware, for example. We're looking for, is a process enumerating all the files and folders on a computer? Is it starting to delete backups? Is it starting to encrypt files? If that's a pattern within a certain window, then we can say, yeah, this looks like ransomware and it needs to be stopped. And that behavioral model is going after classes of attacks rather than individual attacks. And so it doesn't care about which malware is actually doing the ransomware. It is looking at what is the behavior that you can say, like, hey, this is malicious. And so those are the two things actually that we use totally from our point of view as a whole. And we don't use anything else from detection and prevention perspective. We don't use signatures, for example, which are very much reactive. So, and both of these techniques are very much predictive. So we actually see many 0 days where our existing patterns, behavioral patterns, or existing machine learning models are catching those very efficiently.
Well, I mean, you've talked about this, and I'd like to drill down on this. And what is the CrowdStrike advantage in cybersecurity? There's a certain amount of buzz. I would say this from surveying the industry. CrowdStrike has sort of the eyes of the industry on it these days. What is it that's quote unquote better about CrowdStrike in your view?
Yeah, I think it's the platform approach to cybersecurity, which honestly was missing until we started working on our platform and building out the Falcon platform. To me, like if you look at, I mean, historically, if you look at companies in the cybersecurity realm, and even today, is either you have these companies who are big behemoths that are building complex suites of products that are not well integrated, and have a huge overhead for end users and for customers to deploy, to manage, and for end users to use their or do their daily life while this software is running on their laptops or on their servers. So that's one category, like large suites, enterprise suites, which are very complex. There's this other category, which is niche products that is focused on a particular vertical and say, okay, hey, do you secure this part of your stack or not?
It's
And
best of
then
breed usually.
best of breed, but also more from a niche perspective.
Gotcha.
That like not sort of broad enough. Like it's very narrow.
Right.
And with those second category, the complexity is again on the end user to stitch multiple products together to give a comprehensive view. And we believe the advantage CrowdStrike has is because we are a company of the third kind in some sense. We always from the beginning took a platform approach to cybersecurity. So we said we'll build one agent, one lightweight agent that can be deployed very easily, does not have additional overhead or too much additional overhead on the end user. So end users don't complain to their IT admins like, hey, what is this software? Why is it interfering with my day-to-day work? And a large-scale cloud service, so cloud delivered security. That basically takes away the complexity from the security teams on having to deploy servers, manage them, all of that infrastructure that basically they don't need to worry about. They can just deploy an agent and rely on a large cloud service that takes care of all of the management parts. But also within that large scale cloud service is our security cloud that is collecting all of the telemetry, which then enables our behavioral models and our machine learning, all of the AI to get smarter every single day as more and more data is collected, as more and more telemetry is obtained. And so that approach of a single agent and a security cloud combined together across all of our products is I think fundamental to how we've done it, and why I believe that's a big differentiator.
I'm going to guess that some of your competitors, and I won't name any names, would let's hear that and go, hey, we're using a platform approach as well, and we've got a number of tools in the platform, and they all can speak to each other because we coded them all. So, we disagree with them all. We've got a platform, and our tools are well integrated. And what would you say to if someone said that to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we would love for more companies to actually continue following our strategy in some sense. That's good for the industry. That's good for cybersecurity as a whole, as we team up to fight against the bad guys, right? That's totally true. And honestly, some of our competitors have taken steps to follow along our strategy. So we like, imitation is flattery. We are glad that that's happening. I think where the challenges lie though is there is still a bunch of for different scenarios or for different functionality. Typically they tend to have, oh, you need an additional agent, or you're logging into a different console. And what that does is it does not take away the complexity. So while the products may be integrated, the day-to-day total cost of ownership for the security analyst, for the SOC, is not reduced. And we would love to see that. Like we would love to see more platform approach in the industry, because that will help reduce the overhead on the security teams. But we're just not there yet, humbly from my point of view.
Well, sure, and you are allowed your point of view on that. Yeah. What about the concept of EDR, endpoint detection response, and XDR, extended detection response? It seems like XDR is the new shiny toy. A lot of the vendors are touting, hey, we've got XDR, and it includes AI, which you're talking about machine learning. So our XDR solution powered by AI is going to really save your bacon. How do you come down on the EDR and XDR technologies?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'll refer to here is Forrester just came out with their EDR new wave recently, and they had a very telling point, which was very much aligned with how we look at things. Is they have very clearly said is EDR is the cornerstone of XDR. You are like the X in XDR is extending EDR. you start from EDR and you extend to other security domains around it. Because to us, like endpoint is the core. That's where you have all of your assets. That's where the users are logging in. That's where the attack surface is something which can be secured, because you can get the full visibility on everything that's happening from the endpoint. And then you can add all the other peripheral aspects to it. But there's a lot of competitors who are coming in and saying, okay, we have XDR. I mean, there's some 30 plus vendors now who say we have XDR. Right. Many of them have taken a SIEM approach to XDR, which obviously you're basically taking an old tool which has not worked and applying the XDR label. It's not going to work. And others have just simply labeled their first party products as XDR. So we've taken a very different approach. We've said EDR, as Forrester says, is the cornerstone to XDR. And within that, we also said we integrate and make sure that we correlate data across endpoint, identity, data security, and cloud. All of the things that we play in today as first-party data natively. That's not, to us, that's not XDR. That's essentially, everyone needs to be doing that. If they are playing in a space, all of their products should be natively integrated together with a single console, a single interface for the user.
Is that the distinguishing feature, just to be clear? Is it a single pane of glass, so to speak, or is it the AI? What makes it really effective XDR?
So we believe effective XDR, first and foremost, needs to start with a strong EDR, because you need to be able to detect things close to the workload, right? If you say like, hey, let's just collect everything to the cloud, first and foremost, you cannot collect everything to the cloud. That's will choke up the network pipes, add too much overhead, which means you're losing a lot of visibility. And so approaches that say like, hey, we'll just do cloud analytics and give you the detections are, first off, you won't get enough detections. And second, the latency of a detection is too late by the time the ransomware has already encrypted files. So first and foremost, from an XDR perspective, we believe this is around detecting and preventing activity close to the workload in milliseconds, in real time. And then second is taking some of that telemetry and doing the cloud analytics to find new detections, things which one single product cannot detect or one single domain cannot detect, because you are correlating, say, an email coming in with an attachment to an activity that's happening out by clicking the attachment on the endpoint to a network connection that's happening to a malicious domain. Like that chain of activity is what an XDR detection should be able to find across these multiple domains. So that's the D for us in the XDR, is finding new detections, something that a single product would not be able to find. And then the third part is our response has to be cross-cutting across the security chain, across the security stack. Right? So you should be able to take an action, like, for example, if an account is compromised, you should be able to take an action to say, disable that user account, right? Or you should be able to make a firewall change to say, don't allow this traffic. Or you should be able to quarantine a file within an email security product. All of those actions should be able to be taken right from within XDR. So the response part has to be spanning across first-party products and third-party products. And that's kind of the approach we're taking. So if you distill it, I would say that the core for us is starting with a strong EDR, the industry-leading EDR, and natively integrating third-party products so that we can get new detections and cross-cutting comprehensive response.
All right, well, let's look to the future of cybersecurity. It's certainly a hot topic these days. If you look ahead, say, 1 to 3 years, 2 to 4 years, I mean, what are some milestones that we can expect? And I think the real question is, when are the good guys going to really start winning all the time? Sometimes I think we're behind the hackers. When are we going to get ahead? Yeah,
that's a great question. I think the future of cybersecurity. So to your question earlier about platform approaches, I'm really heartened that we now have some platform approaches that are happening rather than the niche players. Although, I mean, if you look at the startup market and the number of new companies coming up, there's always a lot of niche companies that are coming up.
Mhm.
But I'm hopeful on that part that we can take a lot more of a platform approach. Also, I think exchanging data around threats, exchanging intelligence, and making sure threat intelligence is natively baked into the products, like we do, like CrowdStrike does.
Mhm.
I think is key, because threat intelligence is core to orienting whether an attack that's seen in the wild is something we need to be worried about from
Mhm.
my company perspective, my enterprise perspective.
Mhm.
So I think that exchange of that threat intel in an open fashion, or more open fashion, is crucial. And part of that is why we created CrowdXDR, which is the XDR alliance,
Mhm.
where the core of that is an open XDR schema that
Hmm.
allows for data interoperability across different domains, across different products.
Hmm.
So having that open platform, which, so we never had a platform first in cybersecurity. Now that we have platforms, the core, I believe, to get ahead of attackers is to have an open platform.
Hmm.
Right?
Does that
And
mean that even competitors will be sharing data, or are you like different
we, we
third-party players that aren't necessarily competitors per se?
well, I mean, we would love for this common schema to be adopted widely.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter whether these are EDR competitors or others, but definitely
Mhm.
across the security stack, because that'll make detections easier. That'll create a common vernacular, a common language for the industry to adopt. Right?
Mhm.
And then the second part, which I mentioned, is around having that human element be front and center. So we want to be able to enable users, hunters, to hunt for the unknown.
Mhm.
And platforms need to integrate the human element in a very first class way.
Hmm.
And that's to me is a core of being able to get ahead of the attackers.
Hmm.
We talk about pitting machines against machines and humans against humans.
Right.
If we are able to do that, then we will win the race.
Hmm.
If machines on the attacker side have to be counteracted with humans on the good side, then we are going to continue losing.
Right.
Right?
Right. Amal, I think you said it. Fascinating stuff. It's going to be a very interesting sector to follow in the years ahead. I very much thank you for sharing your insight today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. It was my pleasure, and glad to be talking with you.